She got pregnant after years of trying, then cheated during her healing trip. I met Olivia on a stormy Thursday night in the emergency room waiting area. Not exactly where you expect your life to begin. My younger sister had just been in a car accident. Nothing fatal, thank God, but enough to send me into that panicked, cold sweat adrenaline mode as I rushed from work still in my high-vis vest, soaked in rain and nerves. I was pacing near the vending machine, struggling to get a signal, cursing under my breath, when I heard a voice behind me say, "You're standing in front of the only charger that works." Her tone wasn't rude, just dry, like she'd seen way worse that day and wasn't in the mood for chaos from a guy dripping all over the linoleum. I turned around, and there she was. Tired eyes, blue scrubs, curls pinned in a bun that looked like it had survived a tornado, and the most composed expression I'd ever seen. She didn't wait for me to move, just leaned past and plugged in her phone with surgical precision. "I've been on for 18 hours, she said, like it explained everything. I said something dumb. I don't even remember what. Probably apologized, probably stammered, but I do remember she smirked. Just the smallest flicker of amusement in the corner of her mouth, like I'd passed some invisible test. We saw each other again in the elevator 20 minutes later. She was heading down, same as me, and I made a crack about the vending machine eating my change. She handed me a protein bar from her bag and said, "Don't say I never did anything for you." I asked for her name, and she didn't give it right away, just asked mine first. When I told her, she nodded and said, "You look like a Dylan." "All right, I'll allow it." I asked her out for coffee. She said, "Not tonight, but ask again tomorrow." The next day I did. She said yes. From that first cup of coffee at a downtown bakery that didn't believe in prices under $5, we clicked. Olivia was something else. She could be blunt and soft in the same breath. One minute, she was telling a story about holding a dying man's hand in the ICU. The next, she was ranting about how pineapple on pizza should be a federal crime. She was honest, grounded, sharp as glass, and somehow still full of warmth. She had a way of making everyone around her feel like their life mattered. That's what hooked me. Not just her smile, not her curves, not even the way she'd go silent when music played and just listen. It was how she noticed people, how she made you feel like you weren't just being heard. You were being understood. We moved in together after 10 months. Our first place was barely standing. The floors creaked like horror movie sound effects. The kitchen tiles were cracked, and our upstairs neighbor thought 3 a.m. was drum practice time. But it was ours. We filled it with string lights, mismatched furniture, plants she rescued from clearance bins, and framed Polaroids of us on road trips. Olivia had this way of turning every space into a home. Even when money was tight, even when the stress of work followed her through the door, she made life feel like an adventure. Every week, she'd bring home random groceries and make up recipes on the spot. I can still hear her barefoot on the hardwood floors, humming badly to whatever vinyl she was obsessed with that month. We were partners in the truest sense. I fixed what broke, she healed what hurt. When Charlie, the three-legged rescue mutt, came into our lives, she fell in love instantly, called him her little tripod, and insisted he understood English better than most men. I proposed 2 years in. Nothing flashy. A weekend upstate in a cabin we'd stayed at the year before. It was snowing lightly. I slipped the ring into a mug of hot cocoa and waited until she finished teasing me about my terrible fire-building skills. She saw it, froze, and then laughed through tears, calling me an idiot while nodding yes 100 times. We got married 6 months later, small vineyard ceremony, close friends and family, wood-fired pizza, live acoustic duo. She walked down the aisle barefoot, just like she always said she would. I'll never forget the way her dad cried when he handed her off to me, or the way she whispered, "I never thought I'd be this happy," when we had our first dance. The next 5 years were what most people dream about. A real marriage. Not perfect, but real. We fought, sure. About dumb things mostly, laundry piles, thermostat settings, her leaving hairbands everywhere. But we loved each other harder than we fought. Our friends called us the blueprint couple. We were the ones hosting game nights, handing out relationship advice, taking spontaneous weekend trips. We talked about everything. Shared passwords, split chores, backed each other's dreams. She supported me when I changed companies. I held her hand through a rough patch at the hospital when a patient's suicide shook her to the core. I remember lying in bed with her that night, just listening to her breathe, feeling like if I let go for even a second, the world would tilt off its axis. And then came the conversation that changed everything. "I'm ready," she said one night, curled into my side under our favorite blanket. I didn't have to ask what she meant. She took my hand, placed it over her stomach, and whispered, "Let's try." I kissed her forehead and told her I'd been ready since the day I met her. And I meant it. More than anything else in this world, I wanted to build a life with her. A family. Our family. I just never imagined how hard that journey would be. We started trying almost immediately after that night. Olivia came off birth control. I downloaded a fertility tracker app. For the first couple of months, it felt fun, exciting even, like we were sharing a secret, planning a surprise the universe just hadn't mailed yet. We rearranged the second bedroom, half joking that it would be the nursery one day. She'd light candles, I'd play the playlist she loved, and every time we made love, there was this unspoken hope hanging between us, maybe this time, maybe tonight. But after a few months, that hope turned into pressure, then into silence, then into tension. At first, we told ourselves it just takes time. Everyone says that. Relax, it'll happen when you least expect it. My cousin tried for a year, and then boom. Yeah, we heard it all. But when the months passed and her periods kept showing up like clockwork, the tone in the house shifted. Olivia started obsessing over ovulation windows. I'd come home, and she'd be holding a thermometer like it was a grenade. She bought books, read forums, tracked symptoms. She started taking prenatal vitamins even though there was nothing prenatal to prepare for. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to add weight to the thing already suffocating her. But it wasn't just her. I was feeling it too. That aching sense of failure that creeps in when something that's supposed to be so natural becomes a job you're failing at. After a year with nothing to show for it but heartbreak and disappointment, we saw a fertility specialist. That was the day the hope officially became clinical. Tests, blood work, charts, phrases like diminished ovarian reserve and mild male factor thrown around like they weren't cracking us open inside. We sat in the doctor's office holding hands while a stranger explained our odds like we were applying for a loan. "There's a path forward," she said. "It just might not be the one you imagined." We left with a packet of paperwork for IUI and a list of medication options longer than our marriage license. We tried 2 rounds of intrauterine insemination. Both failed. Olivia cried in the bathroom the second time, sitting on the edge of the tub while I held the test strip like a crime scene photo. I remember kneeling next to her, brushing her hair out of her face, whispering, "We'll keep going. I'm not giving up." And I meant it. No matter how broken she felt, I never stopped seeing her as whole, strong, beautiful, worth every ounce of pain it took to get to the future we wanted. She was the one who brought up IVF. I could see how much it scared her, needles, hormone injections, the cost, but I could also see how badly she wanted to be a mother. So we did it. Maxed out a credit card for the down payment, cut out every non-essential expense, canceled our anniversary trip. Every night, I gave her shots in the stomach. She tried to be brave, but some nights she'd wince and I'd see tears well up even if she didn't let them fall. Her body bloated from the meds. Her mood swung like a wrecking ball. And still, she got up and went to work, still smiled when our friends announced their pregnancies. God, that was the worst. Watching her plaster on a fake grin while people gushed about baby names and gender reveals. She'd hold their newborns and then cry in the car on the way home, telling me she was happy for them. I knew she was lying, but I held her hand and said, "I know. Live." Me too. We got 3 viable embryos. The first transfer failed. The second gave us a faint positive, a chemical pregnancy that vanished before the blood test. But the third time, the line stayed. Olivia didn't believe it at first. She stared at that test for 10 minutes, blinking, checking the box again like maybe she'd misread it. Then she ran into the bedroom, threw the stick at me, and just said, "Tell me I'm not crazy." I looked. I saw it. The second line. Bold. Undeniable. I've never cried the way I cried that morning. Not when my dad died. Not when we signed the mortgage. Not ever. She was pregnant. That moment rewrote everything. The air tasted different. Colors looked brighter. Even our old broken dryer didn't seem like such a pain anymore. She kept touching her belly like she couldn't believe it was real. We framed the first ultrasound like it was a wedding photo. Told our parents over dinner. Her mom sobbed so hard she had to leave the table. Mine just hugged us and said, "It's about damn time." We didn't post anything online. Not at first. It felt too sacred, too fragile. Like a spell we didn't want to break. The pregnancy wasn't easy. She had morning sickness that lasted all day. Her back ached, her feet swelled, and she had cravings so bizarre I once drove 40 minutes at midnight to get her a very specific brand of pickle-flavored popcorn. But she glowed. Even when she was exhausted and hormonal and near tears because a maternity bra didn't fit right, she was radiant. She'd stand in front of the mirror, hands on her belly, whispering things to our daughter. "You're wanted," she'd say. "You're loved. You're already enough." I used to stand in the hallway and listen, heart in my throat, wondering how I'd gotten so lucky. We decorated the nursery ourselves. Soft green walls, stars on the ceiling, a handmade mobile I strung together from old baby toys and fishing line. We picked names, argued over middle names, laughed about how neither of us could agree on a theme. She wanted whimsical, I wanted clean and modern. We ended up somewhere in between, like we always did. And when the day came, it was a blur of nerves and adrenaline and the longest 6 hours of my life. But when I held our daughter, our miracle, in my arms for the first time, everything else disappeared. Olivia looked up at me from the hospital bed, drenched in sweat, mascara smudged, and she still looked like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I kissed her forehead and said, "You did it." She smiled and whispered, "We did." And I believed her. If only I knew that holding my daughter would be the last moment I truly felt whole. The first few days after Mia's birth were a blur of awe and exhaustion. She was tiny, 7 pounds even, wrinkled and pink, with a furrowed brow like she was already skeptical of this world. I remember holding her in that hospital room, the sound of Olivia breathing beside me, the monitor softly beeping in the background, and thinking this was it. This was the moment I'd been chasing through every heartbreak and disappointment. She was perfect. We brought her home wrapped like a burrito in a yellow blanket, and for a while, it was like everything had clicked into place. Olivia smiled when we tucked Mia into her crib. She took photos of her feet, her yawn, the way she clenched her tiny fists in her sleep. It felt like we'd made it. Like we'd crossed a brutal finish line, and were finally allowed to just be happy. But within a couple of weeks, something shifted. At first, it was just the little things. Olivia stopped humming while she rocked Mia. She let laundry pile up, barely touched her food, and stayed in her bathrobe for days. She wasn't angry, just quiet, distant, like someone dimmed the lights inside her. I chalked it up to exhaustion at first. Newborns don't exactly let you sleep, but then I started noticing other things. She stopped referring to Mia by name, started calling her the baby. She flinched at crying, didn't want to hold her for more than a few minutes at a time. I'd come home from a grocery run and find her on the couch, just staring at the ceiling while Mia whimpered in the bassinet beside her. "She's fine," she'd say. "I checked on her an hour ago." I tried not to panic. I wanted to be the rock, the calm, the one who didn't fall apart. So I picked up the slack, diapers, bottles, night feedings, laundry, everything I could. I joked to Olivia that I was becoming a full-time dad and part-time human. She'd force a smile, but it never touched her eyes. I started doing research, quietly, late at night while Mia slept on my chest. I typed in symptoms, read articles, scrolled through endless threads from new dads who felt helpless watching the women they loved disappear after childbirth. All signs pointed to the same words: postpartum depression. I brought it up carefully one night. I told her I'd noticed she didn't seem like herself, and that it was okay not to feel okay. That I was worried, not judgmental. She went quiet, then shrugged. "Maybe I'm just tired," she said. "Maybe I'm not cut out for this." That sentence crushed me. This was the woman who used to hold her friends' babies like sacred artifacts, who decorated our nursery with fairy lights and forest animals, who cried during baby commercials. I told her that being tired didn't make her broken, that she was doing better than she thought. But I could see it. She didn't believe me. The next few weeks were worse. She became a ghost in her own house. I'd catch her scrolling her phone in the dark, ignoring Mia's cries until I got up. She refused therapy, said she didn't want to talk to a stranger about how she felt. When her mother offered to stay for a while, she said no. When I suggested we get help, even just a postpartum support group, she said it would only make her feel more broken. "You don't understand," she whispered one night while Mia cried between us. "Every day I feel like I'm underwater, like I'm watching myself fail in slow motion." I held her. I told her I loved her, that I was proud of her, that she was a good mom. And she cried so hard into my shoulder, I felt her body shake. That was the night I decided something had to change. Not for me, for her. I stayed up until 3 in the morning planning. I opened my laptop in the kitchen and looked for answers. I read every study I could find, every father's blog, every clinical suggestion about how to help a partner drowning in postpartum depression. One idea kept surfacing. Remove the pressure. Just for a few days. Give her air. Give her sunlight. Give her rest. Some moms, they said, needed to reconnect with themselves before they could reconnect with their child. It wasn't abandonment, it was healing. So I started planning a surprise. Olivia had always wanted to go back to Miami. She went there once in her 20s, said the ocean made her feel alive. I found a quiet beachside hotel, away from the party crowd, with spa access, room service, and a yoga deck facing the water. I emailed them to ask about food allergies and confirmed their housekeeping schedule so she wouldn't feel judged for sleeping in. I cleared 4 days in the calendar, arranged with my job to work remotely for the week, and started prepping the house like I was gearing up for a solo mission. I made frozen meals, stocked up on diapers, and even asked Olivia's mom to be on call, just in case. I didn't want her to worry about anything. I rehearsed how I'd tell her. Imagined her face when I handed her the plane ticket. How she'd cry, hug me, thank me for giving her space to breathe. I even bought her a new beach bag and filled it with her favorite travel-size lotions and a new paperback she'd been eyeing. I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister, who I usually looped in on big decisions. This felt too personal, too delicate. Like if I said it out loud, it would lose its magic. And yeah, maybe a part of me was scared. That she wouldn't accept it. That she'd take it the wrong way. That she'd hear, you need to leave, instead of, you deserve peace. But I also believed this could save her. Save us. I wanted the Olivia who danced barefoot in the living room. The Olivia who made dumb voices while reading children's books in Target. The Olivia who used to whisper to my chest while we lay in bed, telling me all her fears and dreams like I was the only one who could hear her. I wanted my wife back. And I thought, if I gave her just a few days of light, maybe she'd find her way home again. I told her about the trip 2 days before she left. I wanted it to be a surprise, but not a shock. She needed time to pack, plan, process, but not long enough to talk herself out of it. I handed her the itinerary with a soft smile and said, 2 weeks. You. The beach. No bottles, no alarms, no diapers. She blinked like I'd spoken another language. 2 weeks, she repeated. Are you serious? I told her I was. That I'd already cleared it with work, stocked the freezer, lined up help if I needed it. I want you to have space, I said. Not just a break. A reset. A chance to remember who you were outside of bottles and bassinets. She looked at me for a long time. Said nothing. Then folded into me and whispered, I don't know what I did to deserve you. She cried at the airport. Hugged me like she was letting go of a lifeline. I feel guilty, she said. Like I'm running away. I told her she wasn't. That she was being strong enough to heal. She kissed my cheek, held my face in both hands like she was afraid it'd vanish, and walked into the terminal with her tote bag and a rolled-up sun hat. I stood at the curb until I couldn't see her anymore. The whole drive home, I told myself this was the right thing. That when she came back, she'd be better. Stronger. Herself again. The house felt quiet without her, but Mia made sure it didn't stay that way. 2 weeks is a long time with a newborn, and she threw every curveball in the book at me, sleepless nights, bottle strikes, random rashes that disappeared before the pediatrician could see them. But we made it. I wore her strapped to my chest like a tiny koala while I folded laundry, rocked her to sleep with YouTube rain sounds, even learned how to do shush pats like some baby whispering dad from a podcast. Olivia called when she could. Sometimes we'd FaceTime during bath time. She'd coo at Mia through the screen, eyes misting, voice cracking. She missed her. I could tell. Or at least, I thought I could. She sent photos every day. Some were silly, her sunburned feet, a picture of her horrible attempt at making iced coffee in the room's Keurig. Some were gorgeous, sunsets that looked painted, ocean waves like something off a postcard. She looked rested, smiling, lighter than I'd seen her in months. One photo hit me especially hard, her standing on a dock at dusk, wind in her hair, eyes closed, arms out like she was finally breathing again. I stared at that one for a while. Told myself this was what I wanted. This was why I sent her. Week 1. Everything felt right. She checked in constantly. Sent updates. Told me how weird it was to be alone, but how good it felt to have silence again. Said the massages were helping, the food was amazing, and she'd started journaling again. That made me happy. It meant she was finding herself again. Rebuilding. And I was proud of her. I really was. Week 2. Something changed. Subtle at first. Slower replies. Vague answers. One day, she didn't text at all until late evening. Said she forgot her charger. Another day, she didn't answer my FaceTime, then called back an hour later, already in bed, hair wet, claiming she'd just gotten out of the shower. I tried not to read into it. She was resting. I kept telling myself that. But the pit in my stomach started growing. A strange kind of silence crept into her messages. They were warm, but distant. Like someone trying to sound like herself, rather than being herself. She came home on a Wednesday afternoon. 2 weeks exactly. She looked incredible. Tanned, relaxed, eyes clear, smile bright. She hugged Mia like she was afraid she might disappear, held her close for what felt like hours. Then she turned to me, wrapped her arms around my neck, kissed me slow, said, "Thank you for this. You saved me." I believed her. Or wanted to. We loaded her bags into the car, and she talked the whole way home about the food, the sunrises, a book she finished in one sitting, some women she met at a spa who thought she was 10 years younger. She laughed like she used to. It was like having my wife back. That night, after Mia had gone down and we were curled up on the couch, she pulled out her phone. "Want to see some of the pictures I didn't send?" she asked. I nodded. She swiped through sunsets, ocean views, drinks with flowers in them. I smiled. She looked happy. And then she swiped too far. It was less than a second, but I saw it. A restaurant. Dim lighting. String lights above a wooden patio. And there she was, Olivia, leaning in towards someone across the table. A man. Half in frame, but enough. A close lean. Her hand over his on the table. Her smile, different. Intimate. She didn't notice she'd shown me. Kept swiping. "Oh, here's the place I got that green curry I told you about. So spicy, I thought I was going to pass out." She laughed. I didn't. My chest was hollow. My fingers tingled. I nodded at the right moments. Made the right sounds. But inside, I was frozen. That photo burned into my brain like a brand. She handed me the phone to show me a slow-motion clip of birds flying over the water. I watched it. Smiled. Handed it back. Said I needed to check the baby monitor. That I'd be back in a second. I went into the nursery, closed the door behind me, and stared at the wall. A man. In Miami. While I was here, burping Mia at 3 a.m., rocking her through gas pains, sending my wife daily videos of her first real expressions, her laughs, her tiny movements. That's what she was doing. I wanted to be wrong. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just a friendly dinner. But everything in my gut screamed otherwise. The lean. The hand. The way she smiled. The way she didn't tell me about that night. And the silence in week 2 suddenly made perfect sense. That night, I lay beside her, arms stiff, brain screaming. She curled into me like always. Kissed my chest. Said, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." I said nothing. Just ran my fingers through her hair like I used to. And in my head, I was already planning. The morning after the photo, I didn't speak much. I made coffee, changed Mia, fed her breakfast like it was any other Thursday. Olivia floated through the kitchen like she was still on vacation, humming, smiling, wearing one of those thin robes she'd picked up in Miami like she wanted the glow to linger. She asked me how Mia had been. I said, "Great." Asked if anything was new at work. I said, "Not really." I played the part. Perfectly. But inside, something had snapped. I knew what I saw. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I'd learned enough over the years to know timing is everything. Emotional reactions cause chaos. Facts win wars. So I went quiet. Focused. Strategic. That same part of me that managed project timelines and structural audits for a living kicked in like muscle memory. And my first priority was simple: evidence. We still shared a phone plan. I logged into the online portal that afternoon while Mia napped on my chest. I filtered by Olivia's number. The first week of her trip looked normal: brief check-ins, long calls with her mom, a few texts with friends. But the second week? Late-night messages. Repeated numbers. A few blocks of time where she was offline, followed by sudden call spikes. One number stood out: area code 786. Miami. It appeared 6 times between the hours of 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. Not long conversations. Short bursts. Messages. Voicemails. Enough to raise every alarm bell I had. I copied the number and searched it online. Nothing came up. No business, no social media, no spam report. I considered calling it from a burner, but I held back. Too soon. I needed more. Needed certainty. That night, while Olivia was in the shower, I checked her phone. I'd never done it before. Not once. We always swore we didn't need to. That trust was sacred. But I no longer cared about sacred. Not after what I'd seen. She had nothing saved under that number, But I found a contact named Sam Spa. Innocent enough. Except the message history had been mostly deleted. Mostly. One thread remained, 5 words. Drinks again before you leave? No reply. No context. But enough. I started taking screenshots. Every log. Every remaining message. I uploaded them to a hidden drive. Started a document. I called it case file, like I was preparing for trial. Because in a way, I was. Over the next few days, I became the perfect husband. Thoughtful. Calm. Patient. I gave her space, made her tea, asked if she wanted to go see her friends, take a walk, anything to help ease back into normal. She praised me. Told me again how the trip saved her. How she was lucky. I nodded. Held her. And watched. She didn't notice the change in me. She didn't see the way I stared at her when she scrolled Instagram, the way I tilted my head to hear the tone in her voice when that 786 number came up again. Once, when I passed by as she was quietly texting in the bedroom. She didn't know I'd bought a second phone. A prepaid burner. That I'd installed a tracking app on the shared iPad we used for Mia's lullabies, something that pinged her phone when it connected to the same Wi-Fi. And then came the first gift of karma. She left her laptop open one afternoon. Said she was going to take a nap. Her iMessages were synced. I didn't have to snoop. The conversation opened itself. A thread with the same unnamed 786 number. I scrolled. Fast. My fingers started trembling around message 6. Things like, I can't stop thinking about your mouth, and last night was dangerous. In the best way. And then one that punched a hole right through me. I wish we had more time. More time. She had 2 full weeks. I scrolled faster. There were only fragments, several messages were deleted, but enough remained to confirm what I feared. They met during the second half of her trip. Spa first. Drinks after. Sam, Spa, was no spa rep. He was a bartender. Or maybe a local. Someone she met at the pool. Someone she kept secret. The worst part? Her final message. Sent just hours before her return flight. It read, back to reality. Thank you for letting me feel alive again. I sat there, screen glowing, jaw clenched. I could have stormed into the bedroom right then. I could have screamed, shattered a glass, woken Mia, demanded answers. But instead, I took a breath. I closed the laptop. I saved every screenshot. And I started phase 2. I called a lawyer the next day. Quietly. Explained the situation. Asked about custody options, about divorce prep, about what I needed to gather to ensure one thing and one thing only, that Olivia wouldn't take my daughter from me. Because that was the part that cut the deepest. The betrayal wasn't just about me. It was about Mia. I'd held our family together while she wandered. While she drifted. While she slipped into someone else's arms, someone else's bed, someone else's kiss. And yet she still kissed Mia like she hadn't missed a moment. Still tucked her in like she hadn't erased us for a dopamine rush in the sun. I wasn't going to let her keep pretending. So I kept building the file. I recorded everything. Call logs. Messages. Even phone recordings of our conversations when she mentioned how transformative the trip had been. I asked her to describe the hotel again, where she ate, what her favorite drink was, what the weather had been like. Innocent questions. But I needed a record. I needed contradictions. And oh, she gave me plenty. I called the hotel under a fake name. Said I was booking an anniversary trip and wanted to know about their private dining packages. The concierge casually mentioned a sunset wine pairing offered to couples staying in our waterfront suites. She rattled off a date, the exact day Olivia sent me a photo of the ocean from that same patio. I smiled. Thanked her. Hung up. Another puzzle piece fell into place. I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold. This wasn't just about a mistake. This wasn't a one-night lapse of judgment or a tipsy flirtation. This was planned, intimate, secretive, and she came home and laid it at my feet like a gift. Like I was supposed to keep being the strong, quiet man who held it all together. I had no intention of confronting her. Not yet. Not until the knife twisted itself. It happened on a Tuesday morning, about a month after she got back from Miami. By then, I was already sleeping in the guest room under the excuse that Mia slept better without us disturbing her. Olivia didn't question it. She said she understood, told me I deserved rest too, kissed my cheek, and went back to texting someone I already knew wasn't me. Every night I laid in that extra bed listening to the baby monitor in one ear and studying a folder full of proof in the other, a file my lawyer called airtight. I called it necessary. We were supposed to meet with a couples counselor the following week. Olivia's idea. She wanted to reconnect. Rebuild. Said she was ready to fight for us. I said yes like I hadn't already decided to end it in front of a professional witness. But life beat me to the punch. I found the pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. Positive. Digital. Still faintly blinking. At first, I didn't believe it. I stared at it like it had betrayed me too. Maybe it was old, I thought. Left over from before Mia. But then I saw the receipt under it, dated 2 days ago, from CVS, bought with tampons and travel-size mouthwash. I didn't react. I flushed the toilet, left the light on, and walked into the kitchen where Olivia was rocking our daughter in one arm and humming with the same lips she'd once used to lie to me. I didn't say a word. Not then. Later that night, I asked her flat out. I kept it cool. Calm. Measured. I said, "You're pregnant," and she froze mid-bite. Her fork hovered. She said, "What?" And I told her I saw the test. That I found it in the trash. She smiled too fast. Too wide. Said she was going to tell me that night. I said, "Congratulations. Who's the father?" And that's when she shattered. Her whole face collapsed. She stared at me like I'd spoken a language she didn't understand. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood, walked to the drawer, pulled out the USB I'd labeled case file, held it up, and said, "You want to guess what's on this?" She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again, but I cut her off. "Don't insult me." She started crying loud, shaking sobs, chest heaving like she'd been holding it in for weeks. "It didn't mean anything," she said. "I was lost. Broken. You sent me away and I made a mistake." I told her it wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern of decisions. She begged, collapsed into the chair, said she didn't know why, said she didn't mean to ruin us, that she didn't mean to lose me. I asked her if it was his. She looked down, whispered she didn't know, and that was all I needed. The next day, I handed the USB to my lawyer and told him I wanted full custody. He read the file and said, "We won't even have to fight." Olivia didn't argue. Not really. She knew. When the paperwork came, she signed it. She asked about therapy. Asked if I consider staying for Mia's sake. I told her I already had stayed for months. Through the hormones, the miscarriages, the night feedings, and the fact she laid down with another man while I held our daughter through every colic spell and growth spurt. A week later, her friend called me. She sounded shaky, nervous. Said Olivia had been trying to reach Sam and couldn't. His number was dead. His Instagram gone. His text stopped. I said nothing. Just thanked her and hung up. Olivia called that night crying. Said she was pregnant and alone. Said she didn't know what to do. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail saying, "He's not coming back. I'm alone. I don't know what to do." I listened to it once and deleted it. Because I knew exactly what to do. I kept Mia. I built a new life. I told the truth when she was old enough to ask. I said her mom was someone who used to love her but forgot that love means showing up. Love is diapers and fevers and being exhausted and choosing your people anyway. It's not something you find at the bottom of a mojito glass in a beach hotel. It's something you earn every damn day. And me? I'll never forget standing in that airport, watching my wife leave for Miami smiling like I'd handed her the world, only for her to come back carrying a piece of it that didn't belong to me. What would you do if the one thing you worked for, fought for, cried over, became the shield she used to betray you? Would you try to fix it? Or would you do what I did? Let her crumble in the wreckage and walk away with the only thing worth saving? Would you forgive the betrayal or protect your child from it?